Hello, and welcome to Part 4, Disputes, Agreements, and Determinations, in this interview series titled Understanding the BC Roster's Parenting Coordination Agreement. My name is Corey McGuire, and I have been a parenting coordinator for almost 20 years and a family law lawyer for almost 30 years. Today we're going to talk about something every parent eventually wonders: what actually happens when we disagree? Many people assume parenting coordination works like television court. Two parents tell their stories, the parenting coordinator decides who's right, and everybody goes home. In reality, the process is usually much more structured than that. Most parenting coordination work happens long before a determination is ever made.
Let's start with what most people picture. My ex and I disagree about something. Do we both show up, argue our positions, and wait for you to tell us who won?
Not usually. One of the biggest misconceptions about parenting coordination is that it is primarily a decision-making process. In reality, much of the work happens before any determination is made. The objective is often to figure out precisely what the issue is, what information is needed, and whether the problem can be resolved without a formal determination.
Let's imagine I'm a parent listening to this. I have a dispute. What's the first step?
The first step is usually identifying the actual issue. That sounds simple, but it's often the hardest part. Many parents arrive with pages of history, frustration, and examples of previous conflict. The challenge is narrowing the discussion to a specific issue that requires implementation. What decision needs to be made? What arrangement needs to be implemented? What practical problem needs to be solved? That's usually where we begin.
Why spend so much time defining the issue?
Because parents often arrive with very different views of the problem. One parent thinks the issue is hockey, the other thinks the issue is communication. The actual issue may be who is responsible for registering the child. Until everyone understands the real issue, it's difficult to move forward. Much of parenting coordination involves clarifying exactly what question needs answering.
Can you give an example?
Certainly. Imagine a disagreement about summer camp. One parent says the other parent never supports the child's interests. The second parent says the first parent always overschedules. Those statements describe frustration. They don't necessarily identify the issue. The issue may actually be, should the child attend a specific camp on specific dates? Once we get to that question, the discussion becomes much more productive.
So once you've identified the issue, do you try to get the parents to agree?
Absolutely. The Parenting Coordination Agreement contemplates efforts to build consensus before moving toward determinations. Many disputes can be resolved through discussion, clarification, information gathering, or problem solving. In fact, some of the most successful parenting coordination files involve relatively few determinations because the parents gradually learn how to resolve more issues themselves.
So a determination isn't the first step?
No, many parents are surprised by that. The parenting coordinator has various tools available, requiring parents to first discuss the issue themselves using a communication app like our Family Wizard or Talking Parents, requiring an email to the parenting coordinator summarizing the issue and copying it to both parents for transparency. Then the parenting coordinator decides on a process to resolve the issue. Perhaps the parenting coordinator meets with the parents separately or together, gathering information, consulting professionals, providing feedback, making recommendations, facilitating discussion. A determination is one possible tool at the end of the continuum, but it is not the first or only one.
Let's talk about recommendations because I think people get confused. What's the difference between a recommendation and a determination?
That's a great question. A recommendation is guidance. It's an opinion about what may help resolve the issue. Often it's intended to move discussions forward or help parents reach agreement. A determination is different. A determination is a formal exercise of delegated authority intended to resolve an issue when agreement cannot be reached. It must be written, signed, and it can be filed with the court for enforcement.
What if the parents disagree about the facts? Can you actually investigate?
The Roster Parenting Coordination Agreement allows the parenting coordinator to gather information from various sources when appropriate. Depending on the issue, that may involve speaking with professionals or reviewing information relevant to the dispute. The purpose isn't to conduct a trial. The purpose is to obtain enough reliable information to address the implementation issue.
What about children? Do parenting coordinators talk to children?
Sometimes. The roster agreement contemplates that the parenting coordinator may meet with children where appropriate and authorized. That doesn't mean children become decision makers. It doesn't mean every dispute requires speaking with children. But in some circumstances, a child's perspective may help the parenting coordinator understand the issue that needs to be addressed.
Let's say the process works. The parents actually reach an agreement. What happens then?
The agreement can be documented. Many parents don't realize that agreements reached during parenting coordination can become binding. That's important because it creates certainty and reduces the likelihood that the same issue will resurface 2 weeks later.
And what if we never agree?
Then we move toward the next stage of the process. If consensus isn't possible and the issue falls within the parenting coordinator's authority, a determination may be required. That's where the parenting coordinator exercises delegated authority to resolve the issue.
I think many people picture a mini trial. Is that what happens?
Not necessarily. One of the things parents often overlook is that the parenting coordination agreement gives the parenting coordinator authority to determine the appropriate process. Some issues may require very little procedure. Others may require more. The level of process generally depends on the complexity of the issue, the information required, and the circumstances of the case.
This sounds important. Who decides how much process is required?
The parenting coordination agreement places responsibility for process management with the parenting coordinator. Parents control their positions. Parents decide what proposals they wish to advance. But the parenting coordinator controls the process itself. That is one of the most important concepts in the entire agreement.
After years of doing this work, what's the biggest misunderstanding parents have about dispute resolution?
Many parents focus entirely on persuading the parenting coordinator that they are correct. They spend very little time focusing on what practical outcome is required. Parenting coordination generally works best when parents shift their thinking from, "How do I prove I'm right?" to, "What needs to happen next so this issue gets resolved?" That small change in perspective often makes the process much more effective.
So if today's episode could be summarized in one sentence, what would it be?
Parenting coordination is usually a process of problem solving first and determination making second. Most issues move through stages. Identify the issue, gather information, attempt to build consensus, consider recommendations, and only if necessary move toward a determination.
Today we learned that parenting coordination isn't primarily about deciding who's right. It's about helping parents resolve implementation problems in a structured way.
Exactly. And understanding that process helps explain why many disputes are resolved before a determination is ever required. Next time, we're going to talk about a question many parents have but are often reluctant to ask. What happens if one parent simply refuses to participate?